Did you know that a Canadian-raised man has never won the Wrestling World Championships or Olympics? Canada has had 2 world champions, but they immigrated to Canada as adults. The last man to do this was Gsg2017, who was born and raised in Georgia, where he became the Soviet national champion. When Gia immigrated to Canada, his wrestling not only dominated his Canadian competition, but he electrified the world with a beautiful style of wrestling that emphasized technique, and more beautiful technique. No Canadian man or woman has ever had the breadth of technique that Gia shares. Whether it's MMA fighters like George St. Pierre, Kenny Florian, or many of Canada's current national wrestling champions, all of them will tell you that Gia is simply the best at sharing the technique needed to become a world champion. Like many Canadians last summer, Gia turned on the TV to watch the Rio Olympics. As Gia saw the performances and interviews, he grew increasingly bewildered with the athletes who were satisfied with just attending the Olympics. It was at that time that Gia had a defining moment in his life as a wrestler and a coach. He realized that it was simply unacceptable that a Canadian-raised man had never won a world or Olympic championships. Gia made the decision that he would help young wrestlers in Canada get to the top of the men's world podium. Gia realized that if Canadian men wanted to do something they had never done before, they would have to train like they had never done before. Gia was excited about the challenge, but he wondered if perhaps Canadian men were just too unmotivated to put in the hard work needed to climb to the very top of the wrestling world. Were there young wrestlers in Canada who really wanted to be the best in the world? And so Gia looked across Canada, and he was shocked at what he found. You see, Gia discovered that there were young men in Canada who were just as motivated as he had been to be a world champion. Some of these boys were working just as hard as he was, maybe even harder. Gia found 14-year-old Owen Martin, who for many years has been training twice a day, 6 days a week, and who regularly travels to the US to live and study with an American world champion. He found Adam Thompson, who has spent more time on wrestling mats than 99% of wrestlers his age, while at the same time doubling his combative efforts on the judo mats as one of Canada's best judokas. Gia discovered that the McNeil brothers were not only outworking just about everyone in Canada, but that they were constantly traveling to compete and train with the best wrestlers in the United States and Europe. He discovered Danny Coles, who has traveled more than 100,000 kilometers driving and sleeping in his minivan in order to train and compete in North America. And when he earns enough money busking in the streets, he spends months at a time training in Europe, Japan, Iran, and China. He discovered Braden Todd, who was so obsessed about becoming a world champion that he desperately pleaded with his teachers to let him do his schoolwork on the road so that he could train 3 times a day as he travels across Canada. Gia discovered Kyle Jordan and Adam Scott, who have never whispered even one word of complaint when they were grinding it out with some of the best aged senior men in Canada, long before they were old enough for a driver's license. Gia couldn't believe what he was seeing. Sadly, Gia discovered something else. Almost all of these extraordinary efforts were completely unsupported by the national team program. These boys had accomplished these efforts with only the support of their families and private coaches. Gia discovered that the financial cost to attend the Pan Am and World Championships was so high that it placed tremendous strain on most of the families supporting these boys. In 2016, each boy had to pay almost $5,000 to go to the World Championships and thousands more to attend the Pan Am Championships. In most cases, the entire amount of wrestling these boys received was about 3 or 4 minutes. Gia couldn't understand why these athletes crossed an ocean to go to the World Championships in Georgia and didn't have an opportunity to spend time training in Georgia. Surely Canada Wrestling knew that Georgia was one of the strongest wrestling countries in the world. Gia wondered if anyone remembered that Canada's most decorated male wrestler was raised and developed in the Georgian wrestling system, and that with just a few phone calls he could have arranged some world-class training for the 2016 World Team. Gia decided he needed to make up for this lost opportunity. Gia saw that the 2017 World Championships were in Greece, just a short distance from Georgia. And so beginning on August 14th, 2017, Gsg2017 is bringing young Canadian wrestlers back to Georgia for 3 weeks. During this time, the Canadian wrestlers will train with some of the top-ranked cadets in the world. The majority of the time will be spent at a camp in Batumi, where 8 of the Jordan Cadet national team members are from. There will be more than 20 top Jordan wrestlers present for training sessions. Batumi is a special place in the summer, where the Black Sea temperatures average 27 degrees Celsius, just like the Caribbean, but where the air temperature doesn't get too hot and suck out the energy of the athletes. Gia believes that if you want wrestlers to make extraordinary efforts in their training, you have to ensure that their mind and body are in optimal condition. And so Gia has made arrangements to have a chef prepare 3 first-class nutritious meals per day. The athletes will be staying at a great house that is about 100 meters from the beach, and just a short distance to the training facilities. There will be many sightseeing opportunities that are both enjoyable and educational. However, unlike some wrestling trips, the training is always #1 priority. During these weeks in Georgia, Gia's focus will be on giving Canadian wrestlers permanent and dramatic development. For those wrestlers who are going to the World Championships, Gia will customize their training to peak for the best results possible. Gia will also go to the World Championships to provide full coaching support. In the words of Canadian World Team member Braden Todd, it makes me more confident to have a world champion in my corner at the World Championships. There was one aspect of the trip that was especially important for Gia. You see, it broke Gia's heart to hear about the financial hardships so many families experienced sending their children to compete in Georgia last year. Gia knew that spending about $1,000 for each minute of wrestling is not good for the long-term development of young wrestlers, and so Gia determined that he was going to make this incredible 3-week training opportunity possible for less money than the price of last year's very short visit to Georgia. And so Gia has created the first annual Gsg2017 Georgia Wrestling Camp. If you're watching this video, then it means that someone believes that you have the determination to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. Please do not share this video with recreational or part-time wrestlers. Everybody wrestles for different reasons, and there is nothing wrong with wrestling to just win a provincial or national championship. However, this camp is only for wrestlers who have dreams of becoming world class. Gia doesn't care if you haven't won the Canadian Nationals before, but you must be committed to the training it takes to win on the world stage. Gia is only able to make 14 spots available, and so priority must be given to young wrestlers who are committed to success. If you are interested in attending GSG Wrestling Camp, you can email gsgwrestlingcamp@gmail.com and leave your phone number. You will be contacted to discuss if you or your child would be a good fit for GSG 2017. Thanks for watching.